God's chosen ones. 6 types of lust and the one that may be blocking you. You thought lust was just sex, but lust wears disguises. It looks like the craving to be seen, the fear of being overlooked, the addiction to applause, the hunger to win even when God said be still. Lust doesn't always feel dirty. Sometimes it feels like validation, but it's still pulling you away from God. If you've been chasing something you thought would heal you, but all it did was hollow you, this is your wake-up call. Because some desires don't break us, they blind us. And today, God is turning the light back on. Stay to the end. The final lust is the one no one talks about, but every chosen one must face. There are some cravings we never speak out loud, because they don't feel sinful. They feel necessary. To be held, to be heard, to finally feel like we matter. But what if I told you lust doesn't just live in the body? Sometimes it hides in our need to be right, to be admired, to never be invisible again. Lust isn't just about sex. It's about the parts of us still searching for something to prove we're enough. You think you're hungry for pleasure, but really, you're starving for purpose. You think you want power, but maybe you just want to stop being powerless. You think you want love, but maybe you're just trying to feel whole again. We've been drinking from broken wells and wondering why we still feel so thirsty. Chosen one, this message isn't to shame you. It's to show you, because God doesn't just expose lust. He heals the wound that made you chase it in the first place. If you've been feeling dry, distracted, disconnected from your calling, if you've been asking God, why do I feel so far away? This isn't coincidence. It's confirmation. Your spirit wasn't craving pleasure. It was craving peace, and it's time to take it back. Let's begin. 6 lusts, 1 heart, 1 holy God who wants it back. Stay close. This is spiritual surgery, and your healing starts now. Part 1, lust for pleasure. When comfort becomes your cage. It started with Netflix. Just 1 episode to unwind. Then 2. Then 5. Then sunrise. Some nights, she doesn't even remember falling asleep. Just the blue light still dancing across her face. In the ache of another day, she didn't pray. She wasn't chasing sin. She was chasing silence. Something to numb the noise. To feel anything other than alone. Pleasure became her bandage, her balm, her borrowed peace. But what began as comfort became her cage. And she didn't even see it happening. Lust for pleasure doesn't announce itself with sirens. It creeps in through self-care, turned self-medication. It's the extra glass of wine, the click you didn't plan, the hours lost in a scroll you swore you'd stop. It's the small compromise that says, I deserve this just for tonight. But somehow, tonight becomes a lifestyle. Proverbs 21:17 says, those who love pleasure will become poor. Not just poor in money, but poor in joy, poor in purpose, poor in presence. Because pleasure, when lusted after, doesn't satisfy, it numbs, it delays, it distracts, and the enemy loves distraction, especially when it looks like rest. God, I thought this would help me. Why do I feel worse? Why can't I feel you like I used to? Why does everything that feels good leave me emptier the next morning? God, if I've made an idol of pleasure, break it. If I've replaced your presence with comfort, come back. She finally realizes the pleasure wasn't evil, but the craving, the escape, the replacement of God. That's where the lust lived. Lust for pleasure is the enemy's quietest weapon, because it rarely feels wrong. It feels deserved. But that's what makes it dangerous. It doesn't come to tempt you. It comes to tuck you in, to sing you to sleep, so you stop seeking what your soul really longs for. Not dopamine, divine peace. What's your nighttime routine? Is it pulling you closer to God, or pacifying a wound you haven't healed yet? What if the thing that helps you escape is actually what's keeping you stuck? You're not addicted to pleasure. You're addicted to relief. But there's a better way to be free. His name is Jesus, and he doesn't just comfort the pain. He heals the root. You were never meant to chase numbness. You were created to carry glory. This was only the first lust, but it might be the one that's kept you asleep the longest. The awakening has begun. Stay with me. Part 2 is where we confront the lust for power, the one that hides inside leaders, dreamers, and even pastors. Part 2, lust for power, the crown that crushed you. She had the title, the team, the corner office with the glass view. People clapped when she entered, but no one knew she was losing herself behind the scenes. She didn't lust for sex. She lusted for power, not to dominate, but to never feel helpless again. A visual, her adjusting her suit jacket in the mirror. Her face looks composed, but her eyes are tired. Childhood taught her that silence wasn't safe, so she learned to be loud. Life taught her that love could walk away, so she learned to control who stayed. Power doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, if you're in charge. You can't be abandoned. But power isn't peace. It's pressure in disguise. She always had to win, always had to prove, always had to protect, even from God, because somewhere along the way, she stopped believing he'd fight for her. So she fought for herself. Mark 10:43-44, whoever wants to be great must become a servant. But power lust flips it. Whoever serves gets trampled. So climb, so don't trust. That's what power lust does to the chosen ones. It replaces trust with strategy. It turns obedience into calculation. It turns prayer into performance. It turns calling into control. If I let go, everything might fall apart. If I'm not in charge, who's going to protect me? If I don't assert myself, they'll walk all over me. One day, the deal didn't go through. The people she led turned on her. The company she built slipped from her hands. And all the power in the world couldn't stop the breakdown, because the crown she wore wasn't from God. It was forged in fear. God's power doesn't dominate. It descends. It washes feet. It lets go so miracles can move. You don't need to be in control to be safe. You don't need to force to be favored. Chosen one. What if the very strength you're fighting with is the one thing keeping you from receiving the blessing? What if the leadership mantle you carry is heavy because you're holding it without God? What if you've built your life on strategy when what God wanted was surrender? What if being right is costing you intimacy? God, I surrender the need to be in control. I give back the power I stole from you. Teach me how to lead with love, how to serve without shrinking, how to trust you again. The lust for power isn't always loud. Sometimes it sounds like wisdom, but it's just fear in a suit. And if you're honest, you're tired of winning battles that cost you your peace. Lay it down, chosen one. The fight was never yours to begin with. Up next, lust for wealth. When success feels like safety, but slowly steals your soul. Part 3, lust for wealth. The dollar that derailed destiny. He used to preach with fire, wore secondhand shoes, but walked like he had a crown. He cried when he talked about Jesus, fasted on Fridays, laid hands on addicts, broke bread with strangers. Then came the layoff, then the bills, then the baby on the way. So he said, just for now, I'll get a real job. God will understand. And God did. But money didn't. It started with a title, then a bonus, then the promotion, then a silence that crept in slow, like mold behind walls. He still had a Bible. He still said grace. But his heart didn't tremble anymore. Wealth doesn't always tempt you with greed. Sometimes it tempts you with stability, not to sin, but to settle, to stop needing faith, to trade dependence on God for control of your life. Timothy Hack. Now, those who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many harmful desires. The lust for wealth is so dangerous because it hides behind wisdom. It says, you're being responsible, you're building a future, you're providing, but in your spirit, you're no longer following. You're funding your own steps. And if God asked you to walk away from it all, would you? I used to weep when I worshipped. Now I just worry about stocks. I used to pray, Lord, send me. Now I say, Lord, bless what I built. I used to preach for free. Now I charge for my time. He thought provision was the blessing, but it had become the idol. And he didn't even know when the shift happened until he asked himself, would I still say yes if it didn't pay? I never wanted your sacrifice, son. I wanted your heart. I never asked for your salary. I asked for your trust. You prayed for daily bread. Now you hoard manna and wonder why it rots. Chosen one. What if the career you prayed for is now the cage you can't walk out of? What if your job pays well but costs you peace? What if your success is securing your life but stealing your soul? Is it provision or is it possession? God, I miss you. I miss needing you. I don't want to be rich if it means going broke in my spirit. The lust for wealth rarely looks evil. It often wears a suit. It quotes scripture. It tithes regularly. But deep down, it's terrified of losing control. Chosen one, what you build with your own hands, you will have to carry alone. But what you surrender to God, He multiplies with rest. You don't have to lose everything to get your heart back. Sometimes you just have to remember where it started. Lust for recognition when man's praise becomes your God, and the crowd replaces the cross. Part 4, lust for recognition, when applause feels louder than God. The post did well. Thousands of likes, shares, comments. Everyone said, you're anointed. But in the quiet, she didn't feel seen, only exposed. Lust doesn't always look like flesh. Sometimes it looks like feedback. She wasn't chasing fame. She was chasing validation. Did they notice? Did it help someone? Did I do enough? She started with God. But somewhere along the line, she started measuring obedience by engagement. John 12:43. They loved human praise more than praise from God. Recognition isn't evil, but when it becomes the goal, God becomes the background. You stop asking, did I obey? And start asking, did they approve? This is the trap of the chosen ones, to be seen by the crowd and unseen by the one who called you. Good. I posted what you told me to, but no one cared. I poured my heart into that word, but it didn't go viral. Am I still useful if nobody claps? Heaven doesn't need your algorithm, just your yes. Your worth was never tied to visibility. It was tied to obedience. When you lust for recognition, you trade prophetic power for performance. You stop speaking truth and start selling it. You are not your analytics. You are not your brand. You are my voice, even when no one listens. Don't forget who clapped for you in the secret place before the crowd ever knew your name. Have you been measuring your ministry by reaction? Have you been editing your anointing to be more palatable? Have you traded presence for performance? If man stopped clapping, would you still keep preaching? God, strip me of the need to be seen. Let me be satisfied with your well done, even if it's whispered in the dark. I don't want to be applauded. I want to be aligned. Lust for recognition is the enemy's most subtle trap because it hides behind purpose. But purpose that's not rooted in presence becomes performance, and performance will drain your soul. Your platform is not your identity. Your post is not your altar. Your gift is not for sale. Chosen one. The crowd didn't call you, so don't let them define you. Part 5. Lust for physical desire. Archai and Timartector, when the body is full, but the spirit is starving. She told herself this time would be different, but the morning always came, and with it, a shame, silence. and a space in her chest that still hadn't been filled. It wasn't love. It wasn't connection. It was a craving. To forget for a while, to feel wanted, even if only for an hour. She gave her body to feel seen, because no one had ever told her that her soul was sacred. Physical desire isn't evil. God made the body. God made attraction. God made longing.
But lust.
Lust twists it. Lust doesn't want intimacy. It wants anesthesia. It doesn't ask, "Do you love me?" It asks, "Can you make me forget?" Forget the loneliness, the rejection, the childhood abandonment that still echoes. 1 Thessalonians 3. God's will is for you to be holy, to stay away from all sexual sin, because lust touches more than the body. It imprints on the spirit. It's not just what happens between sheets. It's what gets taken from the soul. Lust takes, love covers. Lust performs, love protects. The world says, if it feels good,
It must be right.
but the word says, if it honors God, it will feel whole. God, I'm tired of pretending this doesn't hurt. I'm tired of waking up next to someone and still feeling alone. She wasn't a bad person. She was a broken one, taught that her value was in curves, not in covenant. So she gave and gave and gave until she realized she had never received. Her body was full, but her spirit was starving. Daughter, you don't have to prove your worth through pain. You don't have to give your body to be loved. I saw you before they ever touched you, and I've never stopped calling you pure. Chosen one. Has lust become the only way you feel something? Have you confused being wanted with being valued? Have you traded sacredness for survival? When was the last time you felt loved without being touched? God, I give you my body back. Make it holy again. Teach me what love really is. Remind me that I am still chosen, still pure, still yours. The lust for physical desire is the loudest lie because it promises intimacy, but delivers isolation. Chosen one, your body is not your curse. It is your temple. And when God restores you, even your past will prophesy. This was the sixth lust, the loudest, the most disguised, and yet the most healed by love. You've walked through every room of your soul now, where lust hid in pleasure, power, performance, and pain. And still God says, you are mine. Part 6, the lust for physical desire, the one that destroys from the inside out. She called it connection, but connection shouldn't leave you crying in the shower. She told herself, I just need to feel wanted. But the next morning, she felt erased. The touch was real, but the intimacy, an illusion, just a bandage over a soul-deep wound. Lust doesn't come with a warning label. It comes wrapped in validation. It whispers, this will fix the ache. But when it leaves, it never takes the emptiness with it. You can give your body away 100 times and never feel known once. Lust offers an instant flame, but it cannot build a fire that warms your soul. It cannot hold you through a panic attack. It cannot whisper purpose when shame creeps in. It cannot teach your spirit how to trust again. 1 Thessalonians 4. God's will is for you to be holy, not in passionate lust like the world, who don't know God, because lust doesn't just cloud judgment, it confuses identity. You start asking, am I lovable or just desirable? You wonder, would anyone still choose me if they had to wait? God, why do I keep going back? I know it's not love, but it's something, right? I just want to feel held, even if it's not holy. She wasn't addicted to sin. She was addicted to not feeling alone. You see, the body doesn't forget. It stores trauma in the silence between touch. It holds grief behind the laughter. It aches not because it's sinful, but because it was sacred, and it's tired of being misused. Every encounter that took more than it gave etched its echo somewhere inside you. And even if the world claps, even if culture says, It's just sex. Your soul knows the truth. Daughter, I saw every time you gave yourself away, hoping they'd see your heart. I was there when you cried after, when you repented, when you vowed, never again. And I didn't walk away. I've been waiting, not for your perfection, but for your surrender, chosen one. What if the real battle isn't sex, but the lie that says you're only worthy when you're wanted? What if you never actually desired them? You desired healing, and that moment just numbed it. What if the enemy didn't send a person, but a pattern that trains you to trade sacredness for survival? God, I'm tired, not just of them, but of me. I'm tired of calling lust love, tired of mistaking pain for passion. I want something real. I want you back in this body, in this bedroom, in this breath. Daughter, come home. I don't call you impure, I call you mine. You're not damaged goods. You're a restored vessel. You are not too far gone. You are one yes away from freedom. When she stopped giving away her body to feel loved, she finally made space to feel held, not by arms that leave, but by a savior who stays. This wasn't just a turning point. It was a resurrection. This was the final lust, the loudest, the most normalized, the most forgiven. If this was your war, then let this be your peace. You don't have to punish yourself to be free. You just have to come back. Chosen one, your purity was never about perfection. It was always about proximity. And God is near. Even now, you weren't hungry. You were hurting. Lust doesn't always come in red lipstick and broken zippers. Sometimes it hides in success, in applause, in the scrolling, in that 2 a.m. text that promises comfort but delivers confusion. Lust isn't always about sin. Sometimes it's about survival. You weren't hungry. You were hurting. Each of these lusts, pleasure, power, wealth, recognition, knowledge, physical desire, they don't just tempt the world. They target the chosen, because the enemy doesn't waste arrows on those who aren't dangerous. If you've wrestled with these, if you've slipped, if you've prayed and then gone back, you're not weak. You're called. These weren't just temptations. They were training. Every fall, proof you needed grace. Every wound, a holy entry point for God to love you deeper. And every time you came back, that was your confirmation. You were never disqualified. You were just in a fight. So now, chosen one, let me ask you, which lust tried to steal your focus? Which one dressed itself as purpose but was really pride? What were you really chasing, comfort or calling? If you're honest, are you tired of numbing, performing, hiding, pleasing? Then let today be the day you choose something better. Wholeness over hiding, obedience over outcome, presence over performance. God doesn't need your perfection. He just wants your permission. He's not asking you to fix yourself. He's asking if you're ready to be loved anyway. If this spoke to your soul, drop 787 in the comments. Not for a number. For a new beginning. Type 777 to say, God, I'm done with distractions. I'm done with pretending. I want you again. Share this with someone who's been silent in their struggle, who's been performing when all they've wanted was peace. And if you're still unsure, that's okay. Come back tomorrow. We'll still be here. And so will he. This was never about shame. It was about clarity. Because you can't heal what you won't name. And you can't rise until you realize you were chosen all along. Even in the craving, even in the compromise, even when you didn't know how to stop. God still looked at you and said, that one, mine. You weren't made to chase comfort. You were born to carry glory. And it's time to take it back. This is your sign. This is your shift. This is your return. Welcome home. Type 7 as a fin. Let the enemy know this soul is off limits.